What do pork, pastry, nutmeg, and cloves have in common? They're all essential ingredients in the traditional Quebec dish tourtière. Or maybe they're not essential ingredients in the traditional Quebec dish tourtière. How to make tourtière, what should go into it, how it got its name, those are all the subjects of endless debate. And to answer some of the questions that debate raises, I'm joined now by two people, Julian Armstrong, food editor of the Montreal Gazette and author of the cookbook called A Taste of Quebec, and Richard Bergeron, a chef who's researched the roots of French-Canadian cuisine. They're both in our studio in Montreal. Good morning to you both.
Good morning.
Morning.
Richard, maybe I'll ask you first. I understand that your research tells you that the essential ingredients of any tourtière are 4 spices. Am I right?
Well, ingredients, we'll say seasoning if you want. Yes, I did some research and I was very surprised that in Quebec or French Canada, we have that very old-fashioned custom of seasoning meat with spices, which is something that you won't find in Europe or not at all in France, for example. So it dates back from the Middle Ages, but mainly the 4 spices used in Quebec, which are cinnamon, clove, nutmeg, and allspice, plus pepper, of course, dates actually from the 17th century France.
This comes to us from foodnetwork.ca. Clearly, tourtière, a French-Canadian Christmas staple, has made its way into the mainstream. If you look at any supermarket, the ground pork pies are available in freezer cases and often at the prepared food counters. At one of the local bakeries I frequent, tourtière has been taken to a whole new level. Chef Patrick Alleee from Ma Maison offers up 4 different varieties of the pies, and his wife Tara says it's not just the French-Canadian crowd taking part in this time-honored tradition. Ever since we opened, they've been very popular, says Tara during a recent visit. The pies are available fresh or frozen, and Tara gives customers an instructions sheet for frozen pies to make sure they come out as golden brown as they do in the store. The most popular variety, without a doubt, is the Quebec-style tourtière, I think it's called a CPAT, that the shop makes with ground pork and cubed potatoes.
Si la France a ses rillettes, son foie gras, ses crêpes Suzette, la Belgique a ses gaufrettes, et Milan son escalope, Portugal a ses sardines, Toronto sa margarine, l'Espagne a ses mandarines, et l'anglais son mutton chops. Mais nous on fait exception au diable importation. À part la patate, la patate à porc, le ragoût de pâte, la soupe au pois, qu'est-ce qu'on dévore? Oh, c'est la tour, la tourtière. On savoure, tout entière. Fête, ménagère. Je trouve ça bon, la tourtière. On vante la bouillabaisse que font cuire les Marseillaises. On tourne la mayonnaise du Tonkin jusqu'au Chili. La choucroute est allemande, le fromage de Hollande, chop suey garni d'amande. Tout ça c'est des chinoiseries, mais nous on est des gourmets. On aime les bons mets. À part le gueuleton, qui est dans le thon, ou dans le boudin, il faut manger quand on a faim. Mais la tour, la tourtière, on savoure, tout entière. Et ça vaut, en vous plaire. Je trouve ça bon, la tourtière. et placé dans le fourneau. Mais pour faire du fla-fla, faut pas s'arrêter là. Pour casser le jeûne, il faut le jeûne. Le jeûne c'est quoi? Pour lever ce plat de choix. Oh, tout d'abord la dent de grand-père, de la part de tante Aurore, c'est jarretière. Faut pas faire de peine encore. Rajouter une couenne de l'or. La belle-mère. À Noël, comment mange-t-on? La toutière. Au jour de l'an, comment mange-t-on? La toutière. Et au roi pour le gueuleton. La toutière. De la tente jusqu'au menton, de la tour. Tour lourd. De la tour lourd. La toutière.
Yes, what happened at that time is that for some unexplained reason, in all Europe they were still using lots of different spices like saffron or cardamom, but in France they shrink the use of spice and they limited themselves to those four basic ones. And by the mid 18th century, even those spices had disappeared in France, except for a small dash of nutmeg in white sauce or things like that. But all the other ones were not used anymore, and we kept them in Canada.
Huh. But Julian, don't you would put Scottish and Irish elements into the tortilla?
It depends on which part of the province you go to. I found rolled oats in the original Quebec City tortilla, but then that was apparently traced to the south shore of the St. Lawrence along that way, but in the older settled areas. And the rolled oats were traced to the Scottish soldiers, part of the British forces that caused the conquest. And then you get the influx of the potato, which really we have to thank the Irish for. And it was not an original French taste in the New World, but it turns up in many a tortilla, with a lot of debate about whether it should be chopped or mashed. And I have even found it in instant potato flakes sprinkled into the bottom of a pie shell. You should see Richard's face.
No,
it's not acceptable.
No, I agree with that. I even find it very interesting too.
Il aimait le divin enfant, jouer au bois, résonner, musette. de 80 000 ans, nous attendions cet heureux temps. Il est né le divin enfant, chantons tous son avènement.
Well, when is a tourtière not a tourtière? Julie, I think there are 14 different recipes in A Taste of Quebec.
Well, a tourtière is a pie with a pastry all round it. But up in the Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean region, it's more of it's a real festive dish. It's a huge deep dish effort. I think it should serve a minimum of 18 people, but sometimes it's even larger. And it's more like the original sea pie, which I always have to spell for most people, which is Cipaille. And that is a layered dish with pastry in between each layer. And up there, if you're in a house that has a hunter or access to a hunter, you usually have chunks of game meat, like, wild birds, venison, combined with pork, combined with potatoes, combined with anything else you have. And it's a real giant thing. It's not just a little low-slung meat pie.
But when does it stop being a tourtière? Richard, what makes a tourtière a tourtière? Well, you've got the spices.
Yes, no, but there's a problem because what we call tourtière in Montreal or in most part of Quebec, and you go to Lac-Saint-Jean or even to Quebec City, and they will tell you this is not a tourtière, this is a pâte à la viande. So it's very difficult to know exactly. For most of the province of Quebec and even in this New England, French Canadians in New England and that kind of place.
Qui c'est qui cloue, qui c'est qui scie, qui c'est qui tape, 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 qui c'est qui fait des petits jouets pendant toute l'année. Qui c'est qui cloue, qui c'est qui scie, qui c'est qui tape, 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 qui c'est qui met les petits jouets dans la cheminée. Qui a la barbe blanche et un grand manteau, qui a la barbe blanche et sa hotte sur le dos.
C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël. C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël.
Qui c'est qui cloue, qui c'est qui scie, qui c'est qui tape, 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 qui c'est qui fait des petits jouets pendant toute l'année. Qui c'est qui cloue, qui c'est qui scie, qui c'est qui tape, 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 qui c'est qui met les petits jouets dans la cheminée. Qui descend du ciel une fois par an, qui descend du ciel pour tous les petits enfants.
C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël. C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël.
Qui c'est qui cloue, qui c'est qui scie, qui c'est qui tape, 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 qui c'est qui fait des petits jouets pendant toute l'année. Qui c'est qui cloue, qui c'est qui scie, qui c'est qui tape, 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 qui c'est qui met les petits jouets dans la cheminée. Qui vient par l'étoile sur son grand traîneau, qui vient par l'étoile apporter les petits cadeaux.
C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël. C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël. C'est le Père Noël,
Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël. C'est le Père Noël, Père Noël, c'est le Père Noël pour mon joyeux Noël.
Tourtière is something, as Julian said, completely enclosed in dough, and it's ground meat. It can be pork or a mixture of pork and other meat, seasoned with one or many of the of those spices. And it's not more than like 3 inches deep, while the cipat or the tourtière du lac Saint-Jean are very deep and are normally baked in cast iron pots. So for most of us, it's a pie. Okay, for tourtière is a meat pie.
But what about the debate between the pork or the beef or the veal being chopped or ground, Richard?
That's another point too. In the pâté à la viande, as they say in Quebec City, and the tourtière for the rest of us is ground meat. And for that area, Quebec City, Charlevoix, and Saguenay-Lac-Saint-Jean, it has to be cubed or diced and not ground. So nobody really agrees on anything.
If you cube it or dice it, how do you cook it then, Julian?
Yeah, I guess you cook it in a. I'm trying to remember quickly all through my 13 recipes. It has to be simmered. It is sometimes used as a means of getting rid of leftovers. I hate to say that, but that was really, I think, perhaps how it was originally invented. They apparently would have a beef bouillie for lunch, or what they call the main dinner.
Chanel de maman est étouffant. L'aquavelle va de papa l'est tout autant. Tout tourne dans l'auto, à l'église pas trop chaud, ça sent l'encens, c'est écœurant. Noël, j'ai mal au cœur, j'ai le petit collé, je peux pas y toucher. J'ai chaud, j'ai des vapeurs. Gloria in excelsis Deo. Noël, j'ai mal au cœur, la messe de minuit est enfin finie. J'ai chaud, je suis tout en sueur, tout le monde parle du perron de l'église. La laine de Réal, le sous de bras de Lise. Tout le monde me dit salut, moi je trouve que qui pue. Ben oui maman, je le sais que je suis blanc. Noël, j'ai mal au cœur, on s'en va fêter la Sainte Trinité. J'ai chaud, maman il est quelle heure? On arrive chez Georgette et
Johnny, Johnny.
puis ça sent le sapin et le cendrier. La tourtière est en train de chauffer. Les petits pains fourrés me remontent au nez. Noël, j'ai mal au cœur. On veut nous gâter, on nous donne à manger de la réglisse, des biscuits, des négresses, des outils, des mojos, des marshmallows. Tout ça c'est trop sucré, je suis sursaturé. Noël, j'ai mal au cœur. Non merci, je veux plus de liqueur, j'ai chaud. Je vais faire un malade, ça y est c'est le temps de la soirée où la parenté se met à chanter. Vas-y les torts. Les anges dans mon champagne ont fredonné un petit air niaiseux. Prends ton violon pis tes cuillères, un petit rigodon, un verre de bière avec de la dinde pis de la bonne tourtière. On va bien voir ce qu'on va boire de l'air. Noël, j'ai mal au cœur. Non, je n'en peux plus, au secours ça pue. J'ai chaud, j'ai mal au cœur. Le party est enfin fini. Les adultes ont bien ri parce que j'ai vomi. Et on se couche, il est 5 heures. Noël est fini, ah quel bonheur. Mais je tremble sur mon oreiller parce que s'en vient vite la nouvelle année.
C'est comme ça que ça se passe dans le temps des fêtes. Tic la galette, les garçons, les filles avec. C'est comme ça que ça se passe dans le temps des fêtes. C'est comme ça que ça se passe dans le temps du jour de l'an.
And then at night it would be whipped up into a nice meat pie, just as English Canada makes a shepherd's pie. But I think we have to figure that basically it's simmered first with all its lovely seasonings, the choice of spices Richard mentioned, or savory, which I consider as Quebec's favorite herb, and sometimes rosemary sneaks in there. And but whatever the housewife is accustomed to from the regional preferences, and then that is put into the pastry crust. But let's take us down the river to the Gaspé and areas where there's more fish, and up the St. Maurice River, where I think the salmon pie that they've had down through history and is still available in every bakery for Sunday night supper, beg your pardon, is a cousin of the tourtière.
Yes.
It has fish in it because fish was available.
Well, all those things from my research comes from the Middle Ages, as I was saying a little bit earlier, where there was lots of those savories baked in crust that were available. People didn't even bake them at home because they were usually coming from the baker or from some very specific.
Did you have them in your? Did you have them in your home? Did your family make them, Richard?
Oh yes, sure. Of course, my mother always makes tourtière. I'm not the specialist; she is for making them at least.
Un, deux, trois, c'est l'hiver en pente douce à la Croix-Rousse. Un, deux, trois, les vitrines s'illuminent, boulevard des Capucines. Un, deux, trois, la chasse au cadeau, au galop puis au trot. En route, partons, c'est le 25 au carillon. En route, partons, l'homme du jour sonne le clairon. Un, deux, trois, les boules sur le sapin, guirlandes et pommes de pin. Un, deux, trois, les paquets sont bouclés, papier, nos cœurs serrés. Un, deux, trois, les 12 coups vont sonner, l'heure d'aller se coucher. En route, partons, c'est le 25 au carillon. En route, partons, l'homme du jour sonne le clairon. Un, deux, trois, réveil au petit matin, flocon odeur de vin. Un, deux, trois, c'est la course en traîneau, tartine chocolat chaud. En route, partons, c'est le 25 au carillon. En route, partons, l'homme du jour sonne le clairon. Un, deux, trois, joyeux Noël, Père Noël. Un, deux, trois, joyeux Noël, à l'année prochaine.
And she has pork?
She used pork and, well, actually she changed her recipe in the last 15 years.
Influenced by you?
No, I don't know, not at all. But the pork used to be much fatter than it is, and so if you use lean pork cuts nowadays, it lacks a little bit of body in the tourtière. So I think now my mother used some veal too, so it makes moister tourtière. But she changed her recipe, I don't know, something like 15 years ago. And I don't think she used yet flake mashed potatoes, but it will come.
How about soya sauce?
No.
Well, the Gazette had a contest for the best tourtière in Quebec about a few years ago, and we had the most incredible ingredients that came in. I remember green peppers. Can you think of green peppers in a tourtière?
No.
Carrots. His face is very meditative here.
That may not be meditation.
The one that we liked the best and were criticized for had chicken livers in it, along with everything else, and puff pastry. And we got some harassing mail, which luckily was addressed directly to me, and which I hid and responded to individually, so we were not disgraced in public.
But did some
Un jour en suspens, songeur et lent, comme le miel glissant calmement entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Soupir entre deux temps, bien-être élégant, un recommencement imminent entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Un rire en bâillant, Scrabble qui s'étend, chatouillement en pyjama blanc entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Ô prince charmant, je t'aime vraiment. Écoute, on entend le vent entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Ton souffle dans mon cou, un frisson jaloux, un jour contre jour. Mais quel jour sommes-nous? Décor scintillant comme au firmament, chant d'un autre temps qu'on entend qu'entre Noël et le jour de l'an, mesclant de sentiments et plus aucun plan. L'agenda vierge soupire et m'attend entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Ton souffle dans mon cou, un frisson jaloux, un jour contre jour. Mais quel jour sommes-nous? Petit pincement au cœur innocent qui rêve aux rêveries d'antan entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Cri, tambour et vin blanc, toffee collé aux dents, l'évanescent moment présent entre Noël et le jour de l'an. Ton souffle dans mon cou.
Absolutely wonderful.
Could be super, but it not torture.
That's the trick, yes. Not authentic.
Well, if you we talk about authentic, we should remind everybody of the origin or supposedly origin of tourtière, which was at the beginning made with the tourte. I don't know how you call those birds in English.
Oh dear, we're going to have a fight, Peter. Right
But the
here.
name. But the name. Why it's
About
called.
the name.
Well, I'm not going to
Richard's
fight.
giving us the folklore. Come on, give us the folklore.
No, I'm
And then you
just
can set
giving
us
you
straight,
the folklore.
Joel. All right,
because-
I'll try.
Yes, anyways, I know it's not true, okay? The tourtière, the word doesn't come from that. But you had those birds that were called tourte and that are now extinct. and they were used as meat for tourtière, like 2 centuries ago. So that means that it was not always pork, and so I don't really shiver about having chicken livers, because
It depends on what you have.
Yeah, but soy sauce is a little bit more exotic, let's say.
It was very good with the soy sauce, I must admit, but we didn't dare publish it. We just thought it was too non-authentic. No, to go back to the tourte, or the tourterelle, this wonderful passenger pigeon that was apparently so available that I understand that a farmer on the Ile d'Orléans, for example, would just toss grain on the snow and then throw a net over these birds, but usually make it into a ragout because they were very special.
Okay.
And maybe the leftovers were made into the tourtière.
Encore un tour de Noël, mais rien qui descend du ciel. Seule la neige éternelle s'engouffre dans les ruelles. Aucun traîneau par ici. On enguirlande la nuit dans le froid éternel, puis on s'enguirlande aussi. Tum tum tum, à Noël, Noël, Noël. Tous les ans il gèle, ça sent le sapin, le roussi. J'suis pas un cadeau, tu dis. Les bons contes de Noël font des soirées réussies. Tum tum tum, à Noël, Noël, Noël. À Noël, Noël, Noël. À Noël, Noël, Noël. Tous les ans il gèle.
Well, what is the origin of the? Why is what's the origin of the word?
The tourtière is a pan,
Ah.
a dish from France. And maybe you've seen pictures of it. The one they used on the hearth had legs, so it could sit on the hot embers, and a very recessed lid, and you could stack coals on top of the lid so that inside your tourtière could cook.
Inside your tourtière.
Right.
And in medieval or Renaissance menu, sometimes you find the term pièce tourtière, which was one of the course of the meal. So they were probably bringing the whole pot on the table at that time.
At what point in the meal?
Oh, at that time it didn't matter at all because they were eating sweets at the beginning, and so there was not our conception of very differentiated. Sorry, my English is is bad sometimes. Anyways, you didn't have those set courses that we have nowadays.
Just eat it.
Well, it was often a use of sweetness with meat in
Yes.
medieval times.
No, that's
So that
one,
wasn't too unusual, was it?
Yeah, no, that was not. And that's one thing that it's very special in my family. I haven't seen it anywhere, but the tourtière is served completely at the end of the meal. It's a little bit like the old English tradition of serving savories. At the end of the meal, completely. So my mother, when we have réveillon or something like that, we have all the meats and the salted things, and at the same time she brings the dessert and she brings the tourtière at the same time. So, and you have the choice. And everybody which is not familiar with our family custom just look and don't know what to do.
At that time, do you have the green tomato relish
Yes,
that goes
of
with
course.
it so
Of
nicely, or
course.
the pickled beets?
No, they both.
Both
Yeah.
available?
Thank you both.
Thank you.
Thanks. Richard Bergeron is a chef at Nona's Oyster Bar in Windsor, Ontario, and Julian Armstrong is the food editor of the Montreal Gazette, A Taste of Quebec. Her book is published by Macmillan of Canada.
Sont dépouillés de leurs
Well, that is an interesting preview we've got, Arn, to things to look for and things to avoid as we all become little children and sit and watch our TV animated specials. As a matter of fact, I've done almost the same thing with Christmas cakes that you've done for animated specials, because there are a lot of Christmas cake recipes going around. This is not my favorite one that I'm going to give out now, but it's a strange one. It was sent to me by a lady in Montreal about this time last year. I made it. And it takes about under 5 minutes to make. Now, that's its chief advantage, and it is as delicious as anything you're ever going to get. But we had across the country strange reactions to this one. As I said, I did it on Morningside last year, and people heard it across the country. And for about the next week, I would be getting long-distance calls late at night. My wife has just taken a smoldering mess out of the oven out here in Calgary, and what are you up to down there? My goodness. And then the next call, say, from Vancouver, we're just sitting here eating this cake and loving it, and then Halifax would phone. It fell all to pieces on me. It's just goo. So I don't know. Check your oven. I'm going to give it out because it's a quick one. It's a little expensive, the ingredients. But here it is, and I'll try to do it at dictation speed. 1.5 pounds of mixed salted nuts. And it's got here brackets, no peanuts, please. In kindness, please omit peanuts. That's the expensive item. 1.5 pounds of mixed salted nuts. 1/2 pound of pitted dates. I hate dates, but they seem to work well in this. I don't notice the flavor. It blends. 1/2 pound of pitted dates. 4 ounces, that's not too much. That won't break anybody. 4 ounces of red maraschino cherries. 4 ounces of green maraschino cherries. That's 8 ounces of cherries altogether. 4 red and 4 green, your Christmas colors. 1/2 cup of white raisins. Now, that caused controversy last year. I remember people writing in and saying, what do they mean by that? But it's what we call yellow raisins, I think, as opposed to the dark raisins.
There's a fruitcake for everybody. There's a fruitcake for everyone. There are B-sides to every story. If you decide to have some fun, take a bite, it's alright. There's some brandy and star margarine to make it bright. Take a bite, it's alright. A little loving and some fruit to bake. Life is a piece of cake.
Noël, la neige étend son manteau blanc, et les yeux levés vers le ciel, à genoux, les petits enfants, avant de fermer les paupières, font une dernière prière. Petit papa Noël, quand tu descendras du ciel, avec des jouets par milliers, n'oublie pas mon petit soulier. Mais avant de partir, il faudra bien te couvrir. Dehors, tu vas avoir si froid. C'est un peu à cause de moi. Il me tarde tant que le jour se lève pour voir si tu m'as apporté tous les beaux joujoux que je vois en rêve et que je t'ai commandé. Petit papa Noël, quand tu descendras du ciel avec des jouets par milliers, n'oublie pas mon petit soulier. Le marchand de sable est passé, les enfants vont faire dodo, et tu vas pouvoir commencer avec ta hotte sur le dos, au son des cloches des églises, ta distribution de surprises. Et quand tu seras sur ton beau nuage, viens d'abord sur notre maison. Je n'ai pas été tous les jours très sage, mais j'en demande pardon. Petit papa Noël, quand tu descendras du ciel avec des jouets par milliers, n'oublie pas mon petit soulier. Petit papa Noël.
1/2 cup of those yellow raisins. 1 small can, I think this would be about a 12-ounce can of pineapple tidbits. Or if you want to buy the big rings and you have lots of energy in the right arm, cut them up. It takes about 10 seconds. But it's 1 small can of pineapple tidbits. 2 more items. Hold on here now. 4 ounces of candied orange peel. 4 ounces of candied orange peel. I make my own peels. Haven't bought peel. They're expensive. Just save every rind off an orange and a grapefruit. Leave them overnight in water to get the essence, the citric out of them, and then boil that same water, adding sugar to the right sweetness. Shake them up in a paper bag with sugar to coat them. So that's making it yourself. But if you want to buy 4 ounces of candied orange peel, the final ingredient is 8 ounces of candied mixed peel. Now, here are the directions. It takes about, as I say, about 2 or 3 minutes. Sift 3/4 of a cup of flour, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, half a teaspoon of baking powder. Now, you just sift these 3/4 of a cup of flour, 3/4 of a cup of sugar, the half teaspoon of baking powder. Sift it over all the fruits and nuts, all the other ingredients. Mix well with your hands. Oh, that's fun time. That's therapy time when you get your hand. I like to see faces in there, people I've known around the CBC over the years, and I squeeze them and clench my teeth. So you just have this gooey few moments of joy, and then you add 3 well-beaten frothy eggs and 1 teaspoon of vanilla. Stir it all in, the frothy eggs and the vanilla, into this guck. Pour it into loaf pans, having lined them, of course, with your brown paper, with a little oil or margarine on the brown paper. Bake in a slow oven, about 300 degrees. Now, the original recipe said 1.5 hours. I baked mine for 3/4 of an hour, and it turned out beautifully. So watch your oven. I would say From about half an hour on, start sticking your finger into the top, and if it feels reasonably solid, take it. It's a delicious cake.
Lick the
My
finger.
goodness. Don't stick the straw broom thing in. That doesn't work. That's fallacious.
Well, the finger's more fun. Anyway.
Yeah. Because you can put that piece of straw broom in, and even though it's gucky inside, that gut gets wiped off by the outer crust, and you think, oh, well, it's done inside. So poke your finger at it. And just if it looks reasonably solid, it is delicious. It's terribly rich, and it's yummy. And it takes just a few minutes to make. Incidentally, there are copies here. If people want to live dangerously and write in for a copy, you can go ahead and make this. And if you didn't get it down in time, we do have copies here. So good luck with that cake. And if you have any complaints, don't phone me. I'll be hiding away from phone calls.
Chef Alleee's own interpretation, called Tourtière de mon pays, translated as "of my country," uses slowly simmered chunks of beef and pork. The meat is layered between slices of Yukon Gold potatoes. Using chunks of meat rather than ground meat is a choice I made some years ago when starting to make my own tourtière, and I highly recommend it. For those wanting a little fish with the meal, the salmon tourtière is layered with Atlantic salmon, barley risotto, stir-fried vegetables, and creamed spinach. Lastly, the bison tourtière is made with Ontario-raised bison and potatoes. As people become more adventurous, they are trying the other types of tourtière and really enjoying them, Tara explained. Ma Maison is also one of the few places in the city to get house-made foie gras, a nice touch to any festive meal, or grab one of their bûches de Noël, a jelly roll-style cake covered in buttercream icing and shaped to look like a log.